All right, everyone, the lamestream media is terrified that Trump is going to win again, and it's obvious. I said before, weeks ago, his new strategy up until the midterms, at the very least, is basically going to be mostly economic. It's going to be on economics, and to his core fans, hey, either we have built a wall, or we're still planning to build a wall, or we've begun building a wall, or whatever. Those are going to be his main selling points. It will be disproportionately applied to areas that have had disproportionately larger economic recoveries in the wake of Trump taking office, which will be a lot of them in the Rust Belt, and that's really where the focus is, it seems. The Rust Belt and probably Florida, certain communities in Central Florida. Virginia, North Carolina certainly would be in there, and probably New Hampshire, Maine. Those would be the new focuses. You wouldn't want to focus on the Southwest. It's becoming more blue and will continue. Like Arizona at some point, I do expect will become a lean blue state. It'll look more like Nevada. As for Texas, forget about it. Don't worry about Texas. Some people say, oh, but 2024, it'll be a blue state. Oh, okay. You're not understanding how demographics work, and even if that happened, it'd be part of a paradigm shift that practically ensures that half of the Great Lakes states turn reliably red, so it wouldn't even matter in an electoral fashion. It'd be even Stevens. I don't think people have quite understood that yet. And it'd be funny if the Democrats took Florida but lost Michigan, Florida, Virginia, North Carolina, and Ohio permanently at the same time. And that wouldn't be stable. After 20, 30 years, that would flip over too at some point. So things change within politics. CNN, though, realizes that Trump is going to campaign on money. So they look at the economic growth. They see, well, it's as high as he predicted, and it's probably going to rise because of consumer confidence and business confidence in the wake of announcing his tax plan. That's going through. People are going to save money. It's going to get pumped back into the economy. It's going to cause private sector growth. So they're worried about that. Unemployment ticks down. They're worried about that. The recovery that, in truth, Obama did indeed start, but which stayed primarily on the coasts and especially in urban and suburban zones, areas where he already controlled the vote. It's beginning to spread out to small town America and the Rust Belt. Which is exactly what Trump wants to do, because then he can permanently align 4 or 5 different states with the Republicans until they eventually undergo another paradigm shift. It'll cripple the Democratic Party in some of these working class communities that had been swing communities before. It was sort of a fight to see, is this small town of 20,000 people going to lean 60% red or 60% blue? It could flip the whole fucking state. Trump realizes he can keep them permanently more red. He can change the demographics of the whole country, which is, again, it's another mark of a major presidential accomplishment. CNN's terrified because they know that on the major markers on money, which is what Trump was, half elected for, even the nativist stuff is subjugated to, hey, it's basically the take our jobs stuff. That's the basic line. It's just in a different form. It's still technically about money. Trump is a money president. He doesn't need to focus on foreign policy so much. He's actually done surprisingly well with that. With regards to China, hell, he got him to sanction North Korea on 2 different occasions. He's doing just fine on foreign policy too. So they're hoping that black voters will not pay attention to the fact that they are, statistically speaking, on par, on average, going to make more money, keep more money, and their communities will be a little bit better off than they were before. See, the Democrats want to keep people in poverty. They want to keep them miserable so that they can keep pretending to be generous and giving them welfare crumbs, while 99% of that socialized money goes right into the Democrats' party politic. It goes right into their pockets and the pockets of the bankers and corporations that keep bilking those communities. They want to do that to white voters, too. The Democrats like to do stuff like that, and then they like to pit the lower classes against one another because they're into that sort of stuff. It's, they're slime balls, basically. Or at least they have been. They're trying to rebrand their image with Joe Kennedy, of all people. It's going to be interesting to see how that works. Kirsten Gillibrand, Elizabeth Warren. It's going to be a wonderful time. Look, Bernie Sanders is off his fucking rocker. Even he cares more than most of these people, so... be careful what you wish for in the visage of a so-called young, charismatic, dark horse candidate. You pulled it out of your ass with Obama, but, the color of his skin certainly helped with that. Joe Kennedy being a Kennedy, that's lost on the millennial generation. Oh, a Kennedy? Why should I fucking care? No, we weren't alive to see John F. Kennedy. Even the Gen Xers, like little kids at the time, if that. So it doesn't make any sense. It's like he's a fucking boomer dynasty. It's just not going to happen. People talk about Anthony Kennedy more. They'll talk about his, is it Kennedy's daughter, or cousin, or niece, or some crazy shit there? I don't even remember. There are too many Kennedys in the world. It's too many to remember them all. CNN's hoping that the black communities, really, this is a stand-in for minority communities at large, and say, no, he's racist, though, so don't vote for him even though you're making more money and, you got a better job, you're making more money, your kids might actually be able to fucking afford college now without $100,000 of debt, and things are going well, and the sidewalk has a few less cracks in it, and there are a few less broken windows, but ignore all that. Ignore the optimism. See, people who feel optimistic and good about things tend to vote for the status quo. They're worried that more than half the country will be happy with the status quo come the time of the 2020 election. Hell, they might even feel that way by the midterms. If that happens, Trump wins re-election. They know this. That's really all you have to fucking pay attention to. Why do you think the status quo was broken in the wake of the last election? Most of the voters didn't want the status quo. It's not so much Democrat versus Republican even. If partisanship and turnout certainly matters, part of it was just, hey, a lot of people they looked at the DNC and the slime there, they looked at the candidate and they said, I'm not voting to continue this shit. It's been there too long, it's starting to get old, it's not, Obama's, fucking stupid act, it's not funny anymore. The problem is this. CNN reverting to bigotry is not going to work. Look, you already tried that for a year with Trump before, and it didn't work. Saying, well, he's a bigot, he's a sexist, he's obnoxious, he's pig-headed, he's a bigoted bore. So, the economy's going well. People are going to vote for their wallets. Trust me, they will. They've done it many times before. All the moral arguments in the world aren't going to work. And they won't work for black voters either. I wouldn't be surprised. A prediction here. Assuming that the economy continues to grow at roughly the commensurate pace it is now, or possibly more, and we don't have a recession, unemployment doesn't tick up half a point, we don't have any major changes in the economic situation. Krugman is the opposite of right, and things generally go well. I wouldn't be surprised if you see a few extra points of every minority voting demographic voting for Donald Trump. I wouldn't be surprised about that, because the more racism stuff, don't you think it's going to be a little bit old by 2020? Look, a lot of these hashtag resistors that are marching around, they'll have actually gotten jobs by that point. They will no longer have the leisure time to march around with pink hats, throwing garbage cans at the police. They'll have respectable jobs, flipping burgers in most cases, because it's all they're qualified for. They're trans disabled, so they can only work at a place with a wheelchair ramp. Because they cut their own legs off, or they ate too many Tide Pods and now their brain is scrambled. So, some of them will be on disability, but they won't be the ones protesting, of course. It'd be kind of silly. The Tide Pod protest would be really funny. Now, CNN wants them to fixate on race. Now, isn't that interesting? They say that Trump is obsessed with the topic, and yet they constantly obsess over the topic. Every other story, Trump is a bigot. Oh, why you should vote based on race? If it were a right-wing outlet saying that to white people, I think it would cause quite a bit of outrage now, wouldn't it? Therein lies the hypocrisy. But there's plenty of hypocrisy to go around the legacy media. This is the same legacy media that will interview some literal skinhead. Like the New York Times today, I think that there was a hit piece actually against the New York Times for being too cozy with Nazis, or making too many Trump fluff pieces. I don't know what New York Times you're reading. I think you're reading one that's not the actual New York Times. 9 times out of 10, it's an attack on Donald Trump if it mentions him at all, and it's coming from the New York Times. That's just the way that it is. Fucking read a few of their articles. Take a random sampling of 3 political articles there. See which way they tend to lean. You get 1 op-ed out of 10 is kind of conservative a little bit, and they think that it's become a far-right outlet. It shows you how out to lunch some of these people really are. And that's just on the partisan level. They're all authoritarian articles. You're never going to find a pro-libertarianism sort of tenet within the New York Times. They're all, even the right-wingers that they have on, there'll be some Evangel O'Con or some fucking John McCain rhino. Someone who still wants to steal your monies, take your guns away, fuck states' rights, diplomacy should be at the barrel of a gun. Warmongers, basically. Just establishmentarian assholes, little jackboot lickers. But it's funny to see them have a mental breakdown, because they know what's happening. They know what Trump's game is, and they can't really do anything about it. Remember when Krugman said, if Trump wins, the economy will collapse? And for the first few weeks, before it was evident, They're all saying, oh, wait for the stock market to tank. Trump is so horrible and evil that it's going to put us in a Great Depression. So Trump can be responsible single-handedly for collapsing the U.S. economy, but he can't possibly be responsible for any substantial amount of additional growth up and above and beyond what happened under Obama. Well, yeah, there was growth under Obama. A lot of it was lower wage jobs. Now we've got some working and middle class jobs seeping in as well. That's better for the economy. Growth has gone from mediocre. It was growing under Obama, but it wasn't keeping pace with the growth of the population. Now it is. Wonderful. It's actually a good thing. Tax reform will come along. Lower and middle class people will save a shit ton of money. I'm going to save about $1,000 on my taxes when I file under the Trump plan. It's going to be great, dude. That goes back in the economy. I buy something, probably from a U.S. firm. Look, that money can be invested in something that goes back into the economy. It gets taxed 2-3 times anyway. It's not like the government is missing out on some great monumental sum, but it gives people more confidence and lets them exercise that choice for themselves. Capitalism. That's a good thing. Trump is re-injecting the rudiments of capitalism into structures that have grown anemic over time because of wanton socialism and undue interventionism. Now he's going after the bureaucracy. I hope he tears as much of it apart as he can. I hope that he gets more allies after the midterms. When the Republicans realize the sky's not falling, maybe they can shut up the John McCains and work with him a little bit more, at least on economics. Go ahead and scramble his foreign policy all you want. Let him do what he does best, which is money. Let Trump do what Trump does best. I find it funny, still, to this day, when people call him bigoted, when nobody ever said that even once before the presidential campaign. No, they said he was an upstanding guy. He's hanging out with Oprah and all of these other people, hanging out with the Clintons that supposedly are such virtuous, wonderful individuals. Well then, you Democrats, I guess if his friends used to be the Clintons, he can't possibly be a bad dude. Wouldn't they have exposed him because they're like the righteous leaders of a peasant revolt because they're just so wonderful? They love the poor. The Clintons do love the poor. They love them so much they want to make more of them because they know that they'll vote at higher levels for handouts, even though, they don't need the handouts. What they need is to get rid of the people offering them the handouts so that they can actually get back to work. And I don't mean flipping burgers. I mean, some of these people, they lost a steady job. They were making 50, 60K a year. They're working on a rig somewhere, working in a mine, working in a factory. Factory goes belly up, 10,000 people in your community suddenly unemployed. Well, there goes the community. It's a one-horse town, except it was a horse on steroids. A factory town, a mill town, something like that. Intergenerational. Oh, my dad worked in the mill, my granddad worked in the mill, my great-granddad worked in the mill, and my great-great-grandma, because, there was a weird relationship for back in those times. Now the mill's gone. What am I going to do? Well, there's nothing you can do. Hopefully under the Trump recovery, some of those people will find that the mill restarts. Of course, under Obama, that was never the case. No, under Obama, it was the urban area that had lost jobs and got affected by housing or something. That area recovered. You realize how long it took even Rutland? We're closer to the coast, tourist enclave, so we weren't affected quite as much. Do you realize how bad Rutland looked in the wake of the Great Recession for about 3 years? How shitty it was? You realize how many houses were up for sale or people were trying to rent out a room? They're like, oh yeah, just $100 a month, that's what we need it to get by. Dad lost his job and mom got her hours cut, basically. It was terrible, dude. Half the downtown was empty. And the mall never recovered and probably never will. I will say one thing, the skating rink in the back of the mall, which actually go around back to it, I didn't realize this. I thought the main entrance was some hidden wall in the fucking mall itself. That looks okay, but Castleton owns it. No wonder it looks alright. Their schedule looks really weird, though. It's like it was half empty. They got a nice gym back there. It's pretty funny when a college has the best thing in the mall, because I think Kmart there is actually, I think they're finally closing that Kmart, which means there won't be any major store in the mall like is JCPenney even there, actually, come to think of it. I think they closed too. And Sears, they closed like half a decade ago. There you go. The death of the mall. The downtown's recovered. Housing's recovered. Everything else is pretty much fine. Good riddance, by the way, to all the mall outlets. They should be in the downtown. It's easier. It's more compact. It's more convenient. That's about all. Peace out.